Hey guys, this week I want to talk about getting what you want and how there's really only a few things that can stop you from getting what you want and why it helps to identify what that thing is. Because if there's just this narrow list, I find that generally speaking, it's only about 9 different things that block a person from having what they really want in life, let alone in business. Then if you can identify what is it, then it helps you to use more of your energy, more of your drive, more of your genius, more of your network, more of your consulting with experts to figure out how can I bypass that one thing that holds me back. And sometimes when you examine that and you look at, well, what's stopping me from having the circumstances I want in life, then what happens is you realize that the cost of getting past that barrier is too high, in which case it makes sense to readjust your plans. Instead of saying, I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that because I don't want to know that. It's better to enrich your mental map of not only reality out there, but also the reality in here. That if you've determined that in order to achieve something, it would diminish your well-being to such an extent that it is no longer a bet you're willing to take, then it's good to have that information, to face it fully head on so that you can say, what's the best compromise, or what's the winning solution that allows me to have what I want, have my cake and eat it too. So let's just talk about what are those things? What are the things that stop you from getting what you want? For a lot of people, it's skill. They say, I have this idea for building this business and it involves developing this app, but I have no coding skills. And so if that's what it is, let's identify it for what it is. For other people, it's just information. I don't know if the market wants this thing. Is there a product market fit or not? I'm not sure. So it's information that maybe nobody has, or in some cases, it's information that someone does have. You decide you want to become a day trader, but you lack the information for how to do that. Well, where can you find that information becomes the logical question, right? For other people, it's belief. It's just, do I even believe I can have that? And it's amazing to me how often people don't believe they can really have something and how it influences their trajectory through life, where they never even let themselves ask certain questions because they don't believe something is possible in the first place. Other times it's fear. You believe you can have it, but you're afraid. What happens if I try and I fail? What would that mean about my sense of identity? I actually counseled someone, a college student, back when I was working at the Baylor University Counseling Center for 1 year. As part of my doctoral training, is I always had to be in the thick of it somewhere. And so for that 1 year of my training, I was at the counseling center working with college students, and this engineering student, very bright guy, comes in and he was failing a lot of his engineering exams. And when we got into the sort of analyzing, well, what's going on? Why don't you sit down in the library and study? It wasn't a lack of motivation. Like, this was a person who enjoyed studying, wanted to, but he was afraid that if he studied for an appropriate amount of time to be able to get a good grade on the test, and then he still got like a B or a C or a D instead of the A that he hoped for, that he thought he was capable of, that it would mean he wasn't smart. And so he wanted to avoid ever facing the possible sense of failure. That's fear holding somebody back. Another common reason people don't get what they want is because of money. They say, if only I had $10 million in the bank, then I could do this philanthropic sort of focused career that I really want. But I have a family to take care of. I have diapers to buy and groceries to buy for my kids. And so I don't have the money to be able to go after the life I truly want. Or for business owners, more often it's, I want to get out of the weeds. I want to hire a competent operations manager to take things off my plate, keep things organized, delegate to someone whose natural skill set is suited to that. But I just don't have the money right now. And so again, if that's the case, if it is money that's holding you back, let's identify that, because then you can start thinking differently. There are people who have opened my mind over the years to how fluid money is, and how if there is an ROI to be made, that time and money are interchangeable, that you can find investors who are willing to create the pools of money to draw from in order to unlock a return on that investment that doesn't necessarily require that you personally have access to all of that money at this moment. So skill, money, fear, what have I missed? Belief, we've talked about. Sometimes it's well-being. Well-being meaning if you feel like, yes, I could do that. I could go back to medical school while simultaneously running my business and also pursuing a journalism career. I believe I'm capable of it. I have the information, the money, the skill. I have the belief that I'm able to do it, but I just think my quality of life would be so low that I feel like that's what would block me from going after that. And so in that case, this is the one case where I think most people, if they examine that carefully, they'd realize that, okay, so truly what I'm saying then is I don't want the path. I don't actually want that path that would lead to that result. But it's often interesting when we identify that well-being issue, there are sometimes workarounds that people don't think about. When I go through formal decision-making coaching with someone on an important life decision or a career direction, we often find that there are alternatives they hadn't really allowed themselves to think of, because our mind tends to be so binary. We tend to think it's either I either do it or I don't. We fail to fill in the middle of all the other possibilities. Another reason why we sometimes don't get what we want is just motivation. For a lot of people, it's like, I want that, but I'm not motivated consistently enough in the moments when I need to be working. So I'll have periods where I feel the tremendous motivation, but it doesn't last. It's maybe 3 days. Or I want to, let's say, fitness or sitting down to work on your entrepreneurial journey. Sometimes a lot of you guys sit in front of a computer at in an office space with no team members around you, and it's just this quiet environment. You start feeling sleepy. You start thinking about, how are my crypto investments or my stock investments doing? And the dopamine rush from that starts to pull you in. And that's the kind of motivation we're talking about, is in the moment when you were supposed to be working on something, you didn't feel motivated. And so again, by identifying that, by getting clear with yourself that this is really a motivation issue that's stopping me. Is that all that's preventing me from getting the life I want or the life circumstances I want? It helps us then, because then we can tap into a toolbox, a set of tools that allow us to deal with those kinds of issues. Another reason that people don't get what they want is because of other people, right? And what I mean by that is, I would, but my partner won't let me. My partner wouldn't go for that. Or my partner's too risk averse, or my partner doesn't put enough time into the business. So we start putting the blame on other people. They're what blocks me from, or sometimes it's a spouse. My spouse won't allow me to take the risk to go after that higher value career that would require more of my time, or would require that we move across the world, or whatever it is. Again, by identifying what the specific thing is that you're saying, this is what's stopping me, it helps you to then look for ways around that. How could we mediate that? How could we overcome it? How could we develop a system for deploying a series of small tests that try to identify high asymmetry to the upside, meaning small bets we could place that would give us feedback about whether something is working or not. Generally speaking, those are going to be bets that have high asymmetry to the upside, meaning there's very little to lose, but a lot to gain by doing some small MVP type tests that show you whether or not this strategy or this avenue would work to overcome that other people problem. And finally, there's time. A lot of people say, I can't have what I want because I don't have enough time. And of course, the truth is we all have exactly the same amount of time. We can't manage time. There is no such thing as time management in a way that's really a misnomer, in the sense that time passes, our 24 hours pass for all of us the exact same way, whether we try to manage it or not. And in reality, it's attention management that allows us to prioritize what gets our attention and when, in such a way that allows us to reach more of our goals, the things we care about, and sidestep the traps and the pitfalls that we want to get from. That's why I always say that true intelligence is the capacity to get what you want. And we could argue about all of these different theories of IQ that psychologists have developed over the years, and why there's so many discrepancies between them all is because there's so many different forms of intelligence. And so if we acknowledge that and we say, really, truly, intelligence is about enriching your mental map of the world and of yourself, such that you're able to predict and anticipate what's going to help you to get towards the goals that matter to you and sidestep the things that you would regret, then that is probably the purest definition of intelligence, even though there's all of these sub forms of intelligence that inform your capacity to create that rich mental map, right? So if it's time that we're talking about, then we need to ask ourselves a different set of questions. I can't get what I want because I don't have enough time. there's some really interesting conversations I get into with my clients about that. And if that's something that you personally need help with, reach out, because that's one of the more complex aspects of managing our lives in the modern era. But also in the modern era, we have more flexibility. There's more things you can do now than there would be for someone who lived 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Dramatically more options for overcoming the time barrier to having what we want. So when you think about productivity this week, when you think about going after what you want, my challenge to you is to ask yourself, can I identify what it is that stops me from having what I want? Is it information? Is it that I lack the information or the skill? Do I lack the belief? Or is it that it would interfere with my well-being? Or is it that I have too much fear? Is it other people? Is it that I don't have enough motivation or time, or I don't have enough money? Whatever it is, see if you can identify that. Write it down. Spend 5 or 10 minutes journaling about it. Get a little bit, flesh it out a little bit more. And then if you need some support in overcoming that, ask for someone else to look at that with you. Get some other perspectives. Say, hey, here's what I want. Here's what I feel like is blocking me. Do you see any way around this? Is there something I'm not thinking of? Again, productivity is mostly about doing less of what you don't want to do. Stop pretending. Like if there's one overarching theme or secret to being more productive, other than, figuring out how to manage your attention and energy better, and then realizing that if you truly want to go for all out productivity, that the next step is then to develop the systems and the strategies to efficiently and in a win-win way tap into the time, energy, and attention of other people. That creates infinite capacity for what you can accomplish productivity wise. If we go past that level of analysis and we go one layer higher, at that higher level, the key to productivity is going after what you truly want and stop pretending that you want something else that you don't really want, because we sabotage ourselves much more than most people realize by pursuing goals that are really about something somebody else wants, or trying to impress a small group of people. What we often do is accidentally absorb the impressions that other people have given us, and we start to make them our own when we choose what we want to pursue in life, and we start to get confused about what we actually want. But your motivational system does not get confused. If you pretend that you want mansions and supercars when really what you want is a hammock on the beach with no employees and no stress, and you don't balance those in a way that allows you to have either to have your cake and eat it too, or be honest with yourself about what you truly deeply want in your heart, then a lot of these problems rear their heads. Like you'll find that fear or subconscious things block you from pursuing the life that you truly want. So that's the number one thing. The biggest key is to ask yourself, is this something I should be pursuing in the first place? Not should in terms of what society tells you, but should in terms of being true and honest to what you actually do want. So start there. That's a key to productivity at the highest level, is to have a rich enough mental model to include yourself in your own thought processes and recognize whether or not your thoughts are focused on the things that you actually want, or if you have accidentally started to pursue goals that you don't really care about, or they're someone else's goals. So after that level, then ask yourself, of these 9 things that I described today, which one of those is actually stopping you from having what you want? And by identifying that, I think you'll find that it's easier to overcome it. So have a great week, and I'll talk to you again next week with your next challenge. Remember, each of these micro challenges is designed just to give you a little nudge in the right direction. They're typically 10 minutes or less, and it will have a profound long-term impact on your life. If you want to learn more about a way to systematically improve your productivity and the way you lead your team, then check out the Google Doc in the link below. There's a beta group that is open to a limited number of people that I'm taking through a process of really nailing down some of these key productivity strategies in a way that can be life-changing. So if that's useful, check it out. Otherwise, I'll see you again next week, and hope you have a good one.